So the present principal part includes the present active and middle passive. So all the present forms are built off the present principal part. The imperfect active and middle passive. So all of the imperfect forms are built off the present principal part. Now, you could say that all of the tenses that are durative in their kind of action, all the durative tenses are built off of the present principal part. Okay? The future principal part. What is built off of the future principal part? The future active and the future middle. That's it. What kind of action does the future tense indicate?
I will.
All right. In the indicative, it indicates a future time reference. But what kind of action? If the present is durative, what kind of action is the future? Now, I know I'm asking you not really a trick question, but a hard question, right?
Well, it's declarative.
Well, yeah, that's true too. But that does not. That's the right answer, but not to my question. Remember, we have three kinds of action. We have durative kind of action, we have undefined kind of action, and we have perfective kind of action. Which one would the future tense be?
Undefined.
Undefined. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Because if the action is in the future, it's probably going to be an undefined action. We're not saying anything about the kind of action, except that we're not saying anything. Right? All right, then the aorist principal part. What is built off the aorist principal part?
Active in the middle.
The aorist active and the aorist middle. What kind of action is the aorist tense?
I ate.
Okay, I ate is how you would translate it. It's undefined action as well. The very meaning of the word aorist means undefined. Okay. The perfect active. What is formed off of the perfect active principal part?
I have eaten.
Okay, that's how you would translate it.
Perfect active.
Okay, perfect and pluperfect active. All right. What kind of action does the perfect indicate?
Past. Completed. Absolute.
Perfected. Right. Hence the name perfect.
Perfected or perfected?
Well, perfected action or perfective, however you want to say it. Perfect action means there is an undefined action and results from that action continue on. In the perfect, the results continue on into the present from the standpoint of the speaker, the writing, right? Not necessarily present today because we're reading it, but from the standpoint of the writing. Right? Pluperfect takes all that and puts it in the past. There was an action and results continued on, and we're not saying whether they continue on into the present time of the writer or not. I have eaten. I had eaten. And you notice in the perfect, in English, how we're combining the present tense and the past tense. Have is present, isn't it? I have, and eaten is past. I have eaten. So in the past I ate, and I'm still full. Right? The pluperfect uses both past tense and English words. I had eaten, so it puts it in the past. You know, yesterday when John asked me to lunch, I had already eaten. Now, I'm saying that today, the results didn't continue into today because I've probably eaten since then. Right? So that's the perfect things. And the pluperfect. So the perfect and pluperfect active are formed off the perfect active principal part. The perfect middle principal part, what's formed off of that? Perfect middle passive. Same form. They share forms. It's not the same voice, but they share form. Okay? And then the aorist passive. What's formed off the aorist passive? Future. Aorist passive and future passive. Okay? So that if the verb forms regularly, like luo, or like agapao forms regularly, then you could predict the form of agapao. And in fact, they really all form off the present principal part, don't they? With whatever particular rules for augmenting and reduplication and endings and in the case of agapao, we haven't had that yet, the contraction of the contract vowel. And so for the future, you get agapesa and aorist agapesa, and you can see the difference, the augment, right, between those two, and the ending, and so on. The next word down, ago, does not form regularly, and so that's why we need to know the principal parts. Now, every principal part potentially could have a stem change. Now, we know that everything in the present tense and everything in the imperfect tense is going to have the same stem as the present principal part. And this is why we need principal parts, because stems change, basically. Okay? Like I go, I went. See, in English, go and went. That's a stem change, isn't it? And so you wouldn't say I goed. I mean, you might see a little 3-year-old kid say, I goed to the store yesterday. Right? But it doesn't form regular. Well, some Greek words don't form regular. Greek verbs don't form regularly, so you need to have principal parts so that you can tell what the stem will be like. So if you look at ago and you wonder what the future passive is going to be, now you don't have a future passive listed, but we know that the future passive forms on the aorist passive principal part. So you can look at ekthane and know that the future passive is going to be ekthesomai, right? See? So there are various changes that happen. If you look at Lego, I assume Lego's on here, yeah, toward the bottom of the second column, Lego is very irregular, as you've seen in your vocabulary. But I think it's going to help you. It's one thing to see the various forms of Lego sprinkled throughout the chapters of your book, right? But now look at Lego with all the forms right here, and you can really get an idea of how it goes. Lego, arrow is the future, apon, areka, aremai, arethane. Right? And it's useful to learn principal parts of some of these verbs, and you can get a cadence going. Lego, arrow, apon, areka, aremai, arethane. I remember in one of my early Greek classes, there was a gentleman who fancied himself a songwriter and choreographer, and he had us all dancing around the room, singing the principal parts to Lego, which helps you remember. But you can see, now you can see Lego, and you can see what the principal parts of that are. You can look at Balo. You see Balo over on the left-hand column. What happens in the future? Well, it drops out a lambda. Why? Well, the two lambdas indicate durativeness, don't they? For the present principal part. You get out of the durative tenses, and guess what? You only have a single lambda. Now, the future looks just like the present, except it only has one lambda and an accent change. You see that? But now as you see that, it kind of makes sense. And you can see how Balo forms in the aorist with the epsilon for the augment. And what do you know about epsilon when you see that? What does epsilon tell you? We know it's aorist, but what else does it tell you?
Second aorist.
Second aorist. How do you know it's second aorist?
Because it looks more like imperfect.
Well, imperfect endings.
Well, the theta is gone.
There's no sigma.
Well, there's no sigma, which is saying the same thing in a different way. You have imperfect endings instead of regular aorist endings. Well, they're imperfect looking endings because they're second aorist endings, right? But they look just like the imperfect ending. But how do you know it's not an imperfect? Other than the fact that it's in the aorist principal part column, which is cheap, right? How do you know it's not an imperfect?
No, augment.
All right. Well, the imperfect would have augment because you have augment in the past tense of the indicative mood.
One
Right?
lambda.
There's one lambda, right? So we've had stem change. And so we can look at that and say there's stem change there, therefore that's a second aorist. If you see a word that looks kind of funny, and you know it's not in the present tense, and you wonder what it comes from, well, you could look it up in the dictionary, right? And if you're not finding it in the dictionary, even though you have taken whatever augment-looking thing might be there off, or reduplication, or whatever, right? You're trying to look it up in the dictionary. and you can't find it, see, the point is you need to be able to know the meaning of the word, right? And you either need to be able to identify the vocabulary word and know that, or look it up in a dictionary. And that's the point. And then after you know the meaning of the word, you need to be able to parse it. But first you have to know the vocabulary. That's why vocabulary is so critical. But if you're seeing a word, you don't know what it is, you can make a guess. If you see ophthane, what in the world is that? Well, you might look it up in a dictionary and find it, tell you that it's from its vocabulary form. But if you have this principal parts chart, you can look, you can make some guesses, and you can look, and as it turns out, ophthane is here. And I'm wondering if it isn't from Hirao, and so I look at Hirao, and I find out that, lo and behold, it is the aorist passive form of Hirao, and I was seen, or I appeared. And that helps you. So hang on to this, and it may come in handy in terms of ferreting some things out and finding out what they come. I don't know how the program works here, but when I took Greek and got past beginning Greek, we just started learning principal parts of irregular verbs. I don't know if we do that here, but we would come in and the quiz would have been write the principal parts of Lego and a few more verbs. So you're writing over. This book kind of does that to you through the means of vocabulary, which is a different way of approaching it. So maybe things will be different. But these are very handy to have. Any questions on principal parts then? Does that help you understand the verbal system a little bit better? For me, you have to see a principal parts chart to see how that all comes together with these words. No questions about that? All right, great. Let's get into our homework then. We did the odd ones in exercises 106 on page 87, as I remember it. Now, even though you still have your homework with you, and please don't let me forget to collect those from you, try not to rely on that homework right now, any more than you have to. Just look at your book. What we want to do is be able to take someday a Greek New Testament, hopefully without those little helps on the bottom, and open it up. And someday I'll show you the Pope as its nickname, which is a different kind of help. But you want to just be able to open your Greek New Testament, and are you necessarily going to know? I mean, can I read any particular? Can I read all of the New Testament without using a dictionary? No, I cannot. But here we go. You want to be able to open your New Testament and look at the page and be able to translate. Okay? So from the start, develop that habit. Just be able to look at your book, your textbook, and translate the sentences. And if you cannot, when you get to class, just translate those sentences without at least a whole lot of help from your homework, your study for the final will be very onerous indeed. Right? So at least by the time you come to class, you should be pretty familiar with being able to translate those things. The point is, get it in here, be able to translate it. The point really isn't to get it on the paper. And so that's why me grading your homework is somewhat useless. I'll know by the final how well you did on your homework. Because you can get it on paper, and that's a far cry from having it here. So use this time bit by bit to get these in your mind and be able to translate. And you will still have to do a fair amount of work for the final, but at least you won't be starting from almost scratch, right? You should find it okay. Okay, let's do it this way. I'll just take quizzes sort of randomly. I will call your name, and I will let you translate the next one. Okay, so Adam, why don't you do number 1 for us?
In those days, himself as having the sun.
Okay, that's very nice. And that autos is a little bit tough there, isn't it? Because you don't have a stated subject of that verb, at least right with it. He has become a man, and he himself has a son. There's having a son. So you see how that autos is working? With the unstated subject. So kind of throw you for a loop right at first. And if you have any questions on any of this, don't hesitate to ask. If you don't understand how something is working together, this is the time to ask. Yeah.
I have, and he has his own son, but that
Is exe, that's a future active you just will have?
okay.
Exe, future active will have?
Well, if it were exe, it would be. But it's ek.
No.
So here, what would be future? The word we have here in the text?
Third person singular exe?
Well, this isn't exe, this is ek. That's a key and not a xi. Right?
Key.
Yeah, so the vocabulary word is echo, epsilon, key, omega. Right? So in the future, the key would change to xi. But that's a great question. That's a very good question. That's the kind of thing that's just liable to trip you up, isn't it? All right. Now, what you said gets to the sense of it, but you probably would use a word like idios for his own son.
Okay, so what was it then? And he
He
has.
himself has a son. Now, if you're shooting for an NIV kind of translation, he has his own son, you probably works his son. What that, Jen?
Repeat for the NIV.
We get to tease people at my church that bring them. NIV is good. You like it. Okay. That was a great translation. Oh, I should have you parse something, shouldn't I? Can you parse Gagaman for us?
It is. Yeah, probably could.
All right. Well,
It's perfect.
okay. Can we make it? If we can figure out what it's from, I mean,
From him.
okay. If you know what it's from, that's a great help. And when you see gamma, epsilon, gamma, what does that tell you that it probably is? Or I'm going to search to see if it is. Reduplication. Okay. And if I know it's from Genomai, then I've got a real head start because I know what it looks like in the vocabulary form at least. So if I know it's from Genomai and I see Gaga now I know Gag isn't part of the stem, right? So now I know that's reduplication. And so if it's reduplication, now I've really narrowed it down to perfect or pluperfect. Almost never going to see a pluperfect. So, let that take you by surprise. That's okay. So it's probably a perfect, right? Now, I look at the endings and I see N. Is that going to be an active or a middle passive ending?
Active.
No, it's going to be active. So what are my active endings? And here's what I need to be able to go through in my mind. Ka, kos, ke, kam, and kala, kasi. I can see that it's third singular. So now, boom, there it is. Perfect, active, indicative, third singular from Genomai, I become. Awesome. All right, very good. Joseph. Number 3.
Many times or often, they have fallen in my house, but now I have fallen, and I am unable to raise myself up.
Okay. That sounds like a commercial, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Makes it simple.
There wasn't a question mark at the end of that.
Can you parse for me epison? What's it from, first of all? You got the vocabulary, right?
Epison,
Mm-hmm.
is it Pipto?
That's right. Okay, it's from pipto.
Right.
So, what's the tense?
Perfect tense?
Pardon?
Perfect?
No. What tense can it not be if it's from pipto? Well, it can't be present, but it also cannot be imperfect because the stem is not pipped, right? So if it's not imperfect, what do I have? Well, I have on. Does that ring a bell? I have something that looks like an augment there. Now, if the stem begins in a pi, what's reduplication going to look like?
Hi.
Pet, right? So this is not reduplication. It's an augment. So if I have an augment and it's not imperfect, it must be
Errors.
aorist. Okay. Is it first aorist? I don't have an alpha, so it's got to be second aorist. And it just looks like those second aorist endings, doesn't it? On, es, amen, eta, on.
Third person plural.
So it could be third person plural. Many times they fell in my house, but now I have fallen. But in the context, it's probably a better choice to make it first singular. Many times I said I have fallen, and that's not the right translation of it either, is it? Many times I fell in my house. Right? But now I have fallen and I'm not able to get up. Now, the tense has changed in pet toka. What tense is that?
Yeah, perfect active.
Perfect. Why would the speaker use a perfect tense the second time around?
Because
Yes.
it happened in the past, but the results have continued.
That's right.
You still like
Exactly. I have fallen means I fell and I'm still on the ground. Right? And so you can see, I think that's a good sentence for showing you the difference in the tense. You can, in the air, I'm just talking about something that happened in the past. I fell lots of times in my house. But now, I have fallen. And I think he says I can't get up to show you that he's still on the ground.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah,
Just go back to the first word, whether it's first or third person, first person or third person on plural. The context would have to really determine that pretty much, wouldn't it?
Yes, and we have very little context here. So could it be they have fallen and now I have fallen? Yeah, absolutely. But the likelihood is, you know, he's saying I've fallen many times, but now I've fallen, I can't get up. So this is different. But you know, that's just kind of playing the odds on context, isn't it? You know, if you really have a larger context. I mean, some of these issues create interpretive issues in the Bible, right? Some of these ambiguous forms, you know, between the imperative and the indicative, for example. Is Paul commanding the Corinthians, you know, seek the greater gifts, or criticizing them? You are seeking the greater gifts. It's the same form for the imperative and the indicative. Right? You know, so it depends on whether you're charismatic or not, how you interpret it. You know, so it becomes the context of your church too, right? How you interpret it. So, you know, would you be wrong? Would I mark you wrong if you use that as a third plural on the test? Probably not. If I were smart enough to catch that. Okay, very good. Grant.
Number 5.
Number 5.
Okay. Wicked men, they have destroyed the temple, and now we are wishing to gather together beautiful stones and prepare another house for our God.
Excellent. Okay, good. The word means prepare. In this context, you might translate that to build. They're going to prepare a building. That means to build it. Right? But that's very good. Evil or wicked man, how do you want to translate that? How would you parse lelucon?
Lelucon, it's going to be let's see, it's going to be active, indicative,
Good.
third singular, or third plural,
Third plural, right?
from luo, which
Good.
means I loosen or destroy.
Excellent. Okay. So we could have destroyed the temple, and it's still gone, right? Perfect tense. And now, ophelo. What does that mean?
A favor. That's it's
We ought to.
it's going to be the
Present active,
it's present active.
first plural.
Present active indicative first person plural.
Now we ought to, right?
We ought to.
Yeah. Now we ought to gather together beautiful stones and
Yeah, I think
make another
translated-
house.
I translated that incorrectly.
Yeah, make another house. And I like how you translated for our God.
For the God of us.
The dative of advantage there, right? The advanced syntax. But that was a nice translation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's from Alfredo, which is
What did you call that? The dative of what?
Advantage. You could also have a dative of disadvantage if it's negative.
I
So that's why he says for another house for our God. You can also have a dative of possession, which is close to what's going on here. But, that's probably a dative. Okay, very nice. Cameron, let's pop over to our New Testament, beginning of 21. Now let me ask you to look on your book. Translate from your book. I'm hard on you. But who knows? You might have an elder like Jeff someday.
You hope not.
Jeff is an awesome elder.
She's teaching Jackson. I hope she's not teaching Jackson.
Yeah.
Might be a whole other issue.
So, we'll leave that for another class to discuss.
For I am convinced
Good.
that neither death nor life, nor any created thing or any creature any other created thing or any other creature is able to
Chorizo. You remember chorizo? That's probably a special vocabulary. Have you had that?
to separate.
Okay, to separate, yeah. Good.
Is will be able to separate us from the love of God, but the love of God
Mhm.
that is in Christ.
Excellent.
Or-
Okay, good. I like. How did you translate it? I like the way you translated that very
Love.
first word. Say it again.
The very
first
first
word.
Oh, convinced.
Yeah.
I'm convinced.
Yeah, that's where I am convinced. Well, literally, it's I have been persuaded. I came to a point of being persuaded, and I remain persuaded. So I'm convinced. Right? That's a good translation. I am convinced that neither death nor life nor any created thing, is the way I remember it being translated, or any other thing, do nesetai. Can you parse that?
Tunisitai, it's future
Yes.
active.
Mhm.
Future active would be a third person plural.
Plural?
Huh?
Plural?
No, singular.
Singular.
Sorry. Third person singular from is it just dunamai? I didn't know.
It is dunamai, and it's a
Okay.
middle deponent, so it is a
Right.
future middle deponent. Third singular from dunamai, right?
I can't or any.
Yeah, now, why do we have a singular? Hetera is singular or plural, for example, as one of the subjects, right?
Is it? Yeah, it's plural.
Why do we have a singular verb here? Well, first of all, you have neither death or singular or life or created thing or anything else, right? Or any other thing.
Thing.
But remember, a neuter plural subject, you take the third and the singular. Obviously, this is from the Bible. It strikes me a couple of, and you know them well, there are a couple of odd syntax things going on here. First of all, at the end of it, the love of God, and then taste, that's an article. It's kind of a shorthand, right?
Love.
Yeah, going back to the love, right? So it works as a relative pronoun. And I think you translated it similarly with the love of God, which is in Christ. And really, and you'll see that when you learn relative pronouns, I don't think you have yet, the form of relative pronouns and articles is similar, and they're really historically related in their usage. So sometimes you can see an article function like here as a relative pronoun. But it just kind of brings you back, instead of saying the love again, it just doesn't, it's shorthand, doesn't it? But notice that tis up there, right? After the ellipsis periods, tis. What does that mean? Have you had that vocabulary yet? Tis, tinos. You haven't, because it's third declension. It's a third declension. Yeah, does it give you? It gives it to you in a special vocabulary. Well, tis, tinos. The T is the neuter. Tis is the masculine, feminine form. It's a two-termination pronoun. It's an indefinite pronoun, and it means a certain one. But it's not neuter here. It's either masculine or feminine. Tissus is also third declension. I would like to look at tissus. I can't tell what gender that is unless I look it up. I don't remember. Could be feminine. That's a kind of word that could be feminine. So tis here could be feminine to go along with tissus, created thing. But if tissus is masculine, then this would be a created person, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be a created thing, it would be a created person. So I want to know that. So I'm going to look up tissus and see what gender it is. Kind of expecting it to be feminine. And it is, it's feminine. Okay. So the tis there is feminine to go with the tissus, which is also feminine. Well, we're going to cover third declension nouns, so that's a good introduction tonight to what we're going to cover. Okay, well done. Vin, why don't you do 3 in the New Testament?
If if you've come to know me and the Father and my Father. Oh no, hold on, this is what weird what adverbial. You will know my Father also, and from now, you are knowing him, and you have seen him.
Okay, excellent. Now, what I would like you to tell me is simply what the tense of all of these finite verbs are. So what's the tense of egnokate?
That is a perfect.
Okay, what's the tense of no sesse?
So, let me see.
got a stem change, and we've got an aristic kind of stem change. For certain. So look at your ending. What do you have on your ending? You have a, what kind of temporal infix do you have?
Sigma.
Sigma, right. So that could be one of two things, which is what?
Future.
Or? The sigma could be future or aorist. If it's aorist, what kind of vowel are you going to have? If it's aorist, you're going to have what kind of vowel? Alpha. Do you have an alpha? No. You have an epsilon because it's future. Future
Middle.
Yep, that's right. So that's a future. Okay. Coming over to genoskete. What's that?
That'll be a
Tense.
present active.
Present. Okay. Rakate. Tense.
That is
Perfect. Kappa. Temporal infix, which is typical.
and I have a question about that.
Mhm.
Why isn't there duplication?
Where's there what?
Why is there not reduplication?
Well, that's the way that one is reduplicated. Harao is reduplicated. Heo ra.
Okay.
It probably is because the word starts with an omicron.
This is so loud.
And if you're going to reduplicate it, you can reduplicate it by lengthening it to an omega. But they choose to make the reduplication more significant.
It's just hard.
Heo ra ka. Just kind of, maybe it's because it's hard to distinguish. Remember, this language is spoken also, we have to remind ourselves of that. And maybe it's hard to distinguish between ho-ra-o and ho-ra-o in the spoken language, but it's easy to distinguish between ho-ra-o. If I say ho-ra-o, is that a long o or a short o? Right? Or he-o-ra-ka, that's pretty easy to distinguish. So maybe that's right. Okay, excellent. Stacy.
Number 5.
Yes, sir.
But if Christ is being preached, that is raised but if Christ is being preached that he is raised from the dead,
Okay. That's kind of tough, isn't it?
how how are you saying among yourselves that there's no resurrection from the dead?
Okay, that's very good. On the second line of that, the tines, that's in the
Tines.
special vocabulary. That's the same word we were just looking at, the tenos word. That's plural. That is a nominative plural. So that's the subject, actually. Okay, that's the subject of legusing. So certain ones
Are saying,
but then en humin defines certain ones, modifies certain ones. So certain ones among you, and you did that very well, that among you thing. Certain ones among you are saying that there is no resurrection from the dead. Good, you did a good job on a hard sentence. Okay, let me ask you to tell me what the tenses of these verbs are. Kerusetai, what's the tense?
passive.
All right, that's the voice, that is passive. The moving parts, we do tense, voice, mood, present, active, indicative. Right? So the first one is
The
the
present
tense.
passive.
Yes, it's present, very good, all right. How about eggertai? What tense is that?
Looks like passive.
All right, well, it is, but what tense is it? Active, middle, and
Oh,
passive, that's the
it's-
voice, right?
It's it looks like an aorist passive, no?
Well, what aorist passive endings look like? Thane, thase, they, thamen, theta, thesan, or without the theta, it's secondary.
Oh, it's a perfect passive.
Perfect passive, excellent. All right, good. What tense is legusin?
It's well, it looks like the third person plural present indicative.
It's the present.
An active indicative.
Yeah, present, all right, nice. What tense is Estin?
Then, it also looks like present.
Excellent,
Tense.
okay, very good. Well done. That was kind of a tough sentence, wasn't it? That's from the Bible, that's real stuff. I mean, you know, you're reading the real Greek there. All right, John.
Say John.
Yes.
Jesus said, not on account of you, as this voice done. Not on account of you.
Yep. Okay, excellent. Now let's hop over to chapter 16, the New Testament part. And we'll give you two short ones, John. So leave number 3 out of number 2. Because you need to shine tonight. You're shining. Let me shine some more.
Number 3 on Acts review. Is that right?
Yeah, number 3 on the New Testament part.
New Testament. Daniel answered,
Good.
Rabbi, you are the Son of God.
Awesome. All right. Tell me what tense apokryphe is. Do you know what it's from? Very good. Apokrynomai. What tense is this then?
It's a aorist
Yeah, what's the voice then?
passive.
Yep, very good. All right. What is the tense of A? Su A.
That's a present tense.
What's it from?
Amy?
And what's the voice? That's a trick question. Amy doesn't have a voice.
Oh,
Good.
making me sweat over here.
All right, very good. All right, nice job.
Did give me easy one.
Okay, Robert.
I wanted to do this one because I like dragons. I think we should translate dragons, not serpents. Or whatever it is.
Go for it.
Anyway.
Dragon, we'll take dragon.
Okay.
Man, this is from the book of Revelation. This is the hard stuff. You got the hard long one.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. And the dragon and his angels made war not prevail, or they prevail not, and not a place was found. This is where we run into each other. Was found for them yet in heaven.
Yep.
Until them yet in heaven. And the dragon. Oh, yeah, right. The dragon was thrown into the earth, and the angels and his angels with him were thrown.
Awesome.
Is that sort of what it said?
Yep, you got it.
We were having trouble with at the yet in heaven, like how to
Yeah,
place for
still.
them.
Yeah, we put
Still?
Still, yeah, still.
We put a, there, nor was there a place still found for them in heaven.
We were wondering what it was.
Yep. Can you parse the very last word, please?
Blade face on. Third person. Is it Arisactor? No.
It's Aorist.
Aris passive.
Aorist passive. They the face on. Aorist passive, indicative,
Indicative.
plural.
Sorry.
From what?
Sorry, I did it wrong.
It's
From
alright.
oh, is it follow?
Oh, very good.
It's like
throw it right there.
Come on.
It's okay when you're doing it. You know, if you're writing it out, you want to do tense, voice, mood, you know, person, number,
Yeah.
vocabulary, form, meaning, you know.
I
but
should
when-
have done it in. I know that.
But I don't mind what order you do it in when you're doing it off the top of your head. Whatever you recognize first, you know, word it out. It's okay. You know, it helps you to try to do it in order, but if you recognize another part of it first, you know, just hang on to that. Whatever you get, you know, whatever God gives you at the moment, hang on to it with all your might, you know. And run. Okay. We already did Cyrus, didn't we?
No.
We didn't. Well, Cyrus then.
Okay.
I guess we've covered everybody else, haven't we?
No.
No? I don't have no paper.
That's,
Oh, okay. All right.
Truly, the Lord was raised and appeared to Simon. And they, this is where I don't know what the how it fits in here, but they reported on the road, and how he was known to them in the breaking of bread.
Okay, how would you parse egnostai?
So that would be aorist passive. Yeah, aorist passive. Third person singular.
From
Kinosko.
Okay, very nice. So, truly the Lord was raised and appeared to Simon. And they explained these things. And here we have an article used substantively, right? They explained these things on the way, and as he was made known to them in that when they broke, in the breaking of the bread. That's kind of an odd thing to give in English. Well, you have N, and it's used as a time reference.
Oh,
So you have a locative of time here. So in a time. And we use the term in, right, for a time reference. And reuse it a little bit differently. But here you learn the nominative, genitive, dative, and accusative, right? You know that some people think, and I'm partial to that thinking, that in the genitive form there's also an ablative case, which indicates source. And in the dative form, there's also a locative case, which indicates location. And there's an instrumental case, which indicates instrument. It just depends on how you describe it. You can have a dative location, right? Or you can call that a locative case. Or you can have a dative instrument, or you can have an instrumental case. It really doesn't matter. It's just two different ways to describe the same thing. But if you have an instrumental case, then you can, break it down to even further and say, well, there are different ways of using the instrumental case. Or if you have a locative case, you can say we have a locative of time, a locative of place, and a locative of sphere. What about in Christ? Right? That's a location term, isn't it?
Yeah.
But that's a location of sphere, isn't it? Because it's not a literal place, it's not a time, it's a logical sphere. It's a logical concept. We are logically in Christ. So that's a little tough to get into English, but that was good. Okay, good. Any questions on the homework? When you pass those to me? Yes, sir.
The top of that would be referencing what? Because you translated there these things.
Well, I think that it's referring to the things that happened on the way, and how he was made known to them when they were breaking bread.
So he's telling them what happened on the road when they were breaking bread.
Well,
Or he was telling
when they were breaking bread. Well, get back and look at Luke 24, look at the context, it helps. Understand what's happening. Would you, we should have you read too, but would you please give me a piece of, this is going to sound weird, give me a piece of paper with your name on it, that way I can deal with kind of those clerical things, that I can deal with getting you in the book and all of that stuff. So we get graded out.
Maybe I should just let you take that copy around my paper.
You ready to translate?
Yeah.
No? Okay.
One of us kicked the table and I had to cut the copy.
I think just sanctified,
Yeah.
Do you guys study together? Do you guys have study partners? Because that's probably very
Yeah,
useful.
we all studied together.
If you're trying to study alone, if you can work it out to have a study partner, it's really useful to do that. Very helpful. Okay, look at us go. Now we're on lesson 17, the third declension. The third declension is really rather complicated, but the reason I get paid the big bucks is so I can make it simple for you. Many years ago, I put together this sheet to try to, in a sense, simplify the third declension. And it kind of makes it look complicated.
It's pretty complicated to me.
You know? But hang on to it. It's so old that I can't even get my computer to open the file anymore. That it was, I don't know, it was done on an outdated program or whatever it was. And, yeah, it might have even been Mac Paint, believe it or not. But I have these copies of this lying around, and I keep photocopying, and one time I copied it crooked, so it keeps coming out crooked now. But anyway, the endings up in the box on the top, if you familiarize yourself with these endings that are in that box, you will be in good shape. First of all, on the left, the consonant stems sigma, os, it, s, own, c, os. That's masculine and feminine forms. The masculine and feminine have the same forms here. The neuter is blank. That's a pound sign, by the way. You can't put it blank. Blank, os, it, blank, own, c, So that for a neuter plural is something we're used to, right? All right.
So they don't have neuter singular.
Well, they do have neuter singular, but the ending is just blankness.
Oh, there's nine.
Just the stem. You just have a stem with no ending, and that's neuter singular. But the endings do different things depending on how the stem is formed and how the stem ends. So if you have an iota or an epsilon, upsilon, or a sigma stem, and the endings are sigma, os, or os in some cases, you could have a movable nu there, is, own, c, is. So there are some third declension, and we're not the ones we're going to deal with tonight probably, but there's some that are formed in this way. The neuter then is sigma, the neuter of these sigma stems is sigma, os, if, sigma, own, c, So weird things happen, and you have adjectives and all kinds of things that you can see on the sheet. But the basic endings you'll find in lesson 17 on page 97, given sigma, os, it, s, own, c, os. So if you remember those endings, that'll help you a lot, because when we talk about the participle in a few minutes, you'll see that they're similar. Okay. So you've had first declension and second declension, now you have third declension. Remember, first declension, most of the nouns are feminine, some are masculine. Right? And the first declension has endings like a, ace, a, ain, I, own, I, socks, right? Second declension, most of the nouns are masculine, some of them are feminine. That has endings like os, u, o, on, oi, own, ois, oos. Right? Now we have third declension. Third declension gets a little wobbly on it, but those endings are basically sigma, os, if, s, own, c, os. Okay? Well, memorize that. You know that the neuter is. They got to give you the neuter over here. Yeah, the neuter. They don't list the endings separate. But you can see the neuter in the word soma. The stem is soma, but really soma. And you don't have any ending. The tau drops out for the nominative and the accusative, right? And then you have os, e, for the genitive dative, and then the plural you have own, c, Now, a couple of things to notice, and that is that it's just amazingly consistent in the genitive plural. What's the ending? Whether you're in the first declension, second declension, third declension. Right? We see that iota is characteristic of the dative case, isn't it? And here we have an iota in our dative case. I and C, see that, right? In the first declension, you have a with an iota subscript, right? And I own ice with an iota in there. So iota is characteristic of the dative case. The thing that's probably the most confusing is that the genitive singular of a lot of third declension nouns has the same ending that we're used to for the second declension nominative masculine. Right? So you've got to know that it's a it's a third declension noun. If you know it's a third declension noun and you see os, it's not nominative masculine. It is genitive singular masculine feminine. We could say genitive masculine, sorry, nominative masculine, except in some feminine nouns of the second declension, we're not going to have os for the nominative letter. Mafe taste, Mafe taste. Okay. So there you go. Other than that, things are pretty copacetic. They work just like regular nouns, right? Trouble is, because of the way the endings go, you cannot tell the stem from the nominative singular. You really need the genitive singular to tell the stem. Okay? So now let's look at the vocabulary, and you will know why two things are important with third declension nouns. Okay? They give you the genitive form. So hyma is the vocabulary form, right? Now you know where we get hematology, study of blood, right? Hyma, blood. Well, they give you the genitive form. Hyma, hymatos, ta. You can't tell necessarily whether it's masculine, feminine, or neuter. You can't tell the stem just by the vocabulary form. So you get the genitive singular along with it, and you get an article. So what gender is hyma? Neuter. Hyma, hymatos. And so hymatos is going to decline like soma over on the next page. So it's going to be hyma, hymatos, hymati, hyma. Okay. Pretty exciting. You like it when there's an article with a third declension noun. Why? Because it's the same form of the article. And you know ta is neuter, singular article, right? And so when an article comes with a third declension noun, you're in clover, you're good to go. You can tell what the gender, number, and case is right away. A lot of times, context will help you. If you see a third declension noun and it's got to be a direct object, it's probably a accusative. Or you can look it up. You'll have several copies of this sheet by the time you're done, and you can look at what everything's going on here. Figure it right out. Okay, so let's go through the vocabulary, and I'll pronounce them for the sake of time. Let me just pronounce through them, and you can listen and see. Hyma is blood. Ion, ionos. When you see ionos, you're going to think second declension, masculine, nominative, singular. But it's not. It's third declension, genitive, right? Singular. Ion, ionos is age. On air, andros is man. Archon, archontos is ruler. Gune, gunaikos. What a see how there's some things going on there. Right? So what's the stem? Gunaik. Right? Gunaik. These women are white. Gynecology, right? We'll talk a little bit more about these endings in a moment. Heos until thalama, thalamatos will, nukes, nuktos, right? What's happened? Let's look at nuke and nuktos, right? What's the nominative singular ending for a third declension noun? Sigma, os, s, on, c, os. All right. What's the stem of nukes? Nuke. Nu, upsilon, kappa, tau. Okay. Now, let's put a sigma on the end of that. What happens? I got a problem. I've got a dental. I've got a tau, which is a dental, and a dental and a sigma can't go together. So I'm going to lose the tau. Okay. Now what happens when a kappa and a sigma come together? C has to become C. Right? Well, I don't know anything about losing that tau if I just see nukes, right? I could figure out that it's a kappa sigma, but I don't know anything about losing the tau. So I really can't tell the stem by the nominative form. I have to have the genitive form. And of course, the article there tells me that nukes is not. Nukes is feminine. It means not. It is feminine. Right? You follow what happened with that ending there? So strange things are going to happen in terms of the ending. Anama, anamatos, name. spirit. Prema, prematos, word. Sarx, sarcos, flesh. Sperma, spermatos, seed, offspring, children. Stoma, stomatos, mouth. Soma, somatos, body. Now they know what psychosomatic means. Note, ion often occurs in idioms, aston iona, or tus ionos, which means unto the ages, right? Means forever. Forever and ever, unto the ages of the ages. Means forever and ever. All right, any questions about the vocabulary? You can see what's happening with some of these stems, like sarx, right? Well, the C happens because the sigma and the kappa come together. Soma looks like that because it's neuter. All right, so on the exercises, do the odd of the practice review and the odd of the New Testament. And do just the first one of the English degree, okay? Yeah, don't borrow your pens. All right, do you have any questions on the third declension? It's a little bit of a struggle. If you know those endings, I think that's going to help you a lot. All right, now, it's kind of good that we're doing third declension and participles in the same night because the endings are so similar. But third declension nouns are kind of hard, and participles are probably the hardest thing, the hardest chapter in this book is this chapter, right? You know, so this is a challenging note. Participles.